So my back of the napkin calculation, we're waiting for your numbers, is that it's costing about $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo Bay. Man, this is like ripe for Doge. Why is Doge not down there? We're spending $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo, and we fly them down there, we keep them there a while, then we fly them back to the United States. Or we could keep them here for $165 a day. I think that's kind of outrageous.
Hello, Patriots. Welcome back to Signal 76, your beacon of truth in these turbulent times. Today, we're diving deep into a congressional hearing that perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with the establishment's relentless attacks on President Trump's America First agenda. We're breaking down Senator Gary Peters' shameful grandstanding against Secretary Kristi Noem. Before we get started, Patriots, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. We're in an information war, and channels like ours are being shadow banned every single day. Your subscription, your like, and your comment helps us break through their algorithms. Stay until the very end, because I'm going to reveal something about this hearing that the mainstream media will never tell you.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you again, Secretary Noem, for being here. I just want to follow up briefly with Chairman Paul's questions about the cost of the wall, the billions of dollars that are going to be put forward. We do have to have accurate numbers so that we could look at that for funding it. But I would hope you also take a look at all of the cost of a wall, because there are a lot of other secondary kinds of defenses you have to put forward. I was at the wall. I've been with security folks. They tell me that a lot of the cartels have designed very sophisticated technologies to get over the wall. They're called ladders and they're called ropes. So a wall doesn't really do the job if there's not a lot of other background technologies there. So you just can't put out a cost for the wall. That's money that's not going to be as effective without everything else. So let's have a discussion about that. For the first time in U.S. history, the federal government, at the direction of President Trump, is moving immigrants apprehended and detained in the United States on civil immigration charges to Naval Station at Guantanamo Bay, which I know you're very familiar with. In March, I traveled to Guantanamo Bay with several colleagues to have a first-hand examination of the detention operations underway. And I certainly have serious concerns about the cost involved there. To date, can you tell us the total cost for detaining individuals at Guantanamo Bay?
You want the cost per individual?
Do you have that?
I do not have that with me today, sir. I can get that for you.
Well, I do have a number. Do you know how much it costs to hold an immigrant in ICE detention facility in the United States? Do you have that number?
Now, are you talking per day? 100 and I believe the last estimate that I got was $142 a day, around in that approximately, per day?
Yeah, but it's close to what I'm understanding. I understand it's $165 per day, so it's in the range. I'm still waiting for detailed financial information from this administration from my time to Guantanamo Bay. In fact, a letter with Ranking Member, or Chairman Paul and the Ranking Member together, we wanted more information on the costs there. When I was there, the 2-month cost estimate for operations was $43 million when we were down there talking to the officials there. And that does not include transportation to and from the island. We find that people are sent to the island and then they're sent back to the United States again before they're sent out. I'm not sure why we have all those costs. We have plenty of ICE facilities to keep them here. Why you have to send them there and back. And on the day that I visited, there were 87 people in custody. And my understanding is that's a pretty normal number. At that time, at least. So my back of the napkin calculation, we're waiting for your numbers, is that it's costing about $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo Bay. Man, this is like ripe for Doge. Why is Doge not down there? We're spending $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo, and we fly them down there, we keep them there a while, then we fly them back to the United States. Or we could keep them here for $165 a day. I think that's kind of outrageous. So, I'm concerned by the staggering cost of this, and I would hope, Secretary, you could commit providing this committee a detailed breakdown of the total cost of that operation there. There were just a sea of empty beds. There was all sorts of security folks and nobody in those beds, which is why it's so expensive. So Chairman Paul will probably use this on his Festivus report later, I'm sure, of outrageous government spending, and I'll look forward to seeing that. Secretary Noem, are you familiar with Section 872 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002?
I'm It sounds familiar, sir. You'll have to remind me the topic. Yes.
Well, Section 872 requires you, as Secretary, to provide a 60-day notice to Congress
Yes.
of any creation, deletion, consolidation, or alteration of organizations within the department that are not required in statute, which must include an explanation for the rationale behind any charges. It also prohibits you from making any changes to offices in the status. So my question for you is, why have you not provided notice to Congress of the changes you are making at the department? And will you be doing so in the near future? And will you include intended reduction in forces in that? For example, you've already terminated virtually the whole Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office staff without any communication to Congress about your intent. And the only letter yesterday claiming all of the statutory responsibilities would be met, you sent a letter, but it conflicts certainly with the whistleblower disclosure that I received last week. So please explain to the committee why you are not following this law.
Well, Senator, we are following that law. Those offices that you referenced are still open and functioning and providing their duties as required, but they have been right-sized. Many times the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, or the Ombudsman Office, which you and I visited about before, had grown quite expansive. They were used as a political tool, suing and attacking each other and censoring individuals and not doing the job for which they were created. So we've right-sized them, put them back on mission, and if there would be an instance to where notification is required, I certainly will follow that.
Time has expired. Senator Moreno.
Thank you again.
What we witnessed wasn't oversight. It was political theater at its absolute worst. Here we have Senator Gary Peters, a career politician who has spent decades watching our borders get overrun, suddenly concerned about costs when President Trump is finally doing what every previous administration promised but failed to deliver. Let's start with Peters' ridiculous commentary about border wall effectiveness. This man actually had the audacity to mock one of the most successful border security measures in American history by claiming cartels use ladders and ropes. Patriots, this is exactly the kind of defeatist, America-last thinking that got us into this border crisis in the first place. Does Peters think we're stupid? Of course, a wall isn't a magic solution by itself, but it's a critical component of comprehensive border security. Under President Trump's first term, we saw dramatic reductions in illegal crossings wherever wall construction was completed. The data doesn't lie, even if career politicians like Peters do. The wall works because it forces illegal crossers into more difficult terrain where Border Patrol can intercept them. Now let's talk about the Guantanamo Bay issue, because this is where Peters' hypocrisy reaches truly breathtaking levels. This is the same Democratic Party that spent years demanding we close Guantanamo Bay entirely. Remember Barack Obama's obsession with shuttering this facility? But now, when President Trump uses existing federal facilities to address the immigration crisis that Democrats created, suddenly they're concerned about per-day costs. Peters throws around numbers claiming it costs $100,000 per day to detain someone at Guantanamo Bay. Even if we take his calculations at face value, we need to ask ourselves what the alternative is. What's the cost of releasing dangerous individuals into American communities? What's the cost of the crime, the drugs, the human trafficking that comes with an open border policy? The truth is, patriots, that using Guantanamo Bay for immigration detention is actually brilliant strategy. These facilities already exist, they're already staffed, and they're already secure. Most importantly, this sends a clear message to the world that America is serious about enforcing our immigration laws. But here's what really exposes Peters' bad faith in this entire exchange. He's suddenly concerned about government spending when it comes to border security. But where was this fiscal responsibility when the Biden administration was spending billions housing illegal immigrants in luxury hotels? The selective outrage is nauseating. Let's move on to Peters' attack on Secretary Noem regarding congressional notification requirements. This is where the deep state's coordinated resistance becomes crystal clear. The Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office that Peters is so concerned about had become exactly what Secretary Noem described, a political weapon used to attack and censor Americans who dared to support immigration enforcement. Secretary Noem's response was perfect. She called it what it was: right-sizing bloated bureaucracies that had been weaponized against the American people. These offices had grown into massive political operations designed to sue their own government and provide legal cover for sanctuary city policies. Dismantling this internal resistance isn't just good governance. It's essential for restoring the rule of law. Patriots, we need to understand that this hearing wasn't about oversight or accountability. This was about resistance. This was about a career politician who has presided over decades of border chaos, suddenly discovering concern for government spending when that spending is actually being used to protect Americans for once. The broader lesson here is that we can't afford to be naive about what we're up against. The deep state resistance that tried to sabotage President Trump's first term is still there, still active, and still coordinating with congressional Democrats to obstruct America First policies. Every patriot watching this needs to understand that congressional hearings like this one are part of a broader information warfare campaign designed to undermine public support for immigration enforcement. They want to convince Americans that border security is too expensive, too complicated, or too controversial to pursue effectively. But here's what they don't understand. The American people elected President Trump precisely because we're tired of managed decline. We're tired of politicians who tell us what we can't do instead of fighting for what we can accomplish. The use of Guantanamo Bay for immigration detention isn't just operationally sound, it's symbolically powerful. It sends a message to potential illegal immigrants that America is serious about consequences for breaking our laws. Patriots, as we watch this administration implement the most comprehensive immigration enforcement operation in American history, we need to prepare ourselves for more hearings like this one. Congressional Democrats will nitpick every dollar spent and question every operational decision designed to slow down enforcement operations. Our response needs to be unwavering support for President Trump and his team as they deliver on their promises to secure our border and protect American communities. We can't let procedural concerns override operational necessities. This hearing perfectly illustrates why President Trump's victory was so essential and why we can never go back to the failed policies of the past. Career politicians like Peters had decades to address these issues, and instead they made them worse. Subscribe to Signal 76, share this video with every patriot you know, and let me know in the comments what you think about Peters' shameful performance in this hearing. The truth is on our side, and together we're going to make sure it prevails over establishment lies and obstruction. Until next time, patriots, keep fighting for America.